When nearing their 40th anniversary as a loudspeaker brand, DALI asked themselves, what if we just don't hold back for once? What if we create the best speaker that we possibly can, cost no object? How far could we get? Well, those crazy motherfuckers actually went ahead and did it. Yeah, so anyways, in this video, I'm gonna show you the behemoth of a loudspeaker that is DALI KORE. And as if that wasn't enough, I'm also gonna show you the more recent Epikore lineup of 4 different models that borrow a lot more than just their name from their bigger brother. But I suggest we start at the top. This is DALI KORE. It's the best speaker that DALI has ever made, plain and simple. It's very big and it's very expensive, but once you get to hear it, you'll be like, yeah, okay, yeah, makes sense. Some of the most expensive speakers in the world give you the details and a soundstage that sounds, more real than real life, but they aren't any fun to listen to. And that's exactly where I would put DALI KORE. You get all of the resolution and details in the world, but it somehow also manages to keep listening super engaging and fun. It sounds musical, it sounds warm, a thundering, brutal bass that doesn't muddle the mids and highs at all, and a soundstage that brings the musicians to life right in front of you, and because of the size, seemingly infinite dynamic range. So how is all of this even possible? Well, explaining all of the innovations present in DALI KORE would take a lot of time, since every part of it is theorized, designed, tested, and manufactured specifically for these speakers from the ground up. And of course, when I say the ground up, that doesn't mean that DALI went into this project with no prior experience. On the contrary, they've actually been manufacturing loudspeakers since the 80s and have previously made several world-famous acclaimed high-end speakers like the DALI Megaline, the Skyline, Euphonia, and recently the Epikore-series, to name a few. All of these past projects led to new knowledge and technology being developed. For example, the signature DALI paper and wood fiber cones, the hybrid tweeters, and the SMC used in the magnets. So how does KORE build on all of this? The short version. Let's start at the bottom, or in this case actually the top, with the woofers. In a normal woofer, the membrane is driven by a voice coil and a powerful magnet. When the coil is pushed towards the edges of the magnet, its movement becomes less linear, and therefore it starts to distort the signal. In KORE, there are 2 voice coils and 2 magnets, arranged in a way where one coil will move inwards in relation to its magnet, as the other coil moves outwards. This cancels out a huge amount of the non-linearities of the coil movement, and the result is that the woofers can move both in and out a staggering 10 millimeters before they start distorting at all. This balanced drive system is further improved by DALI's patented and now improved SMC Gen 2, which is a material used in the magnets. SMC has great magnetic permeability, but at the same time it has extremely low electric conductivity, at around 1/25,000th of that of iron. This makes it extremely resistant to hysteresis and eddy currents that would otherwise slow down and distort the movements of the woofer. Another fun fact is that the 2 woofers are actually tuned slightly differently in a way that actually manages to cancel out a lot of the reflection from the floor beneath the speakers and focus more of the energy towards the listening position, potentially getting rid of a lot of problems in the bass and lower mids area. Speaking of the mids, let's talk a little bit about the mid-range. Here we see a lot of the same features as we did on the woofers. We have the signature paper and wood fiber cone, and on the inside this is actually also powered by a balanced drive SMC setup, just like the woofers. A mid-range doesn't normally move much at all, but DALI found that using the dual magnet and coil setup still reduced distortion significantly and made the mid-range extremely resistant to power compression, meaning that it behaves the same way at low and high power. You might also notice that the membrane looks a little different, and while it could be just a thing for the looks, because it looks cool, it is actually a technology that DALI calls clarity cone. Clarity cone? By implementing carefully calculated grooves to the driver that also makes the surface coating adhere in a less uniform way, the membrane, as a result, produces extremely little resonance. Best of all, clarity cone doesn't add a single gram of weight, so the driver can move just as effortlessly as without it. Alright, tweeter time. DALI calls this tweeter the Evo K tweeter. Fancy. As you can see, it's a hybrid setup using a huge 35mm soft dome to start off, and then a planar magnetostatic driver that continues up into the highest frequencies and provides a wide horizontal spread as well. Using such a big dome size means that its internal resonance frequency lies well outside of its playing range, and also that it handles power like a champ. Normally, the increased size of the driver would also mean less resolution in the high frequencies, but in this speaker, that's not a problem since the planar driver takes over anyways. Speaking of, the planar driver is actually an improved version of the one used in the earlier Epikore series, featuring a brand new and now much more powerful motor system, a new waveguide and heatsink, among other improvements. Compared to the Epikore hybrid tweeter, the Evo-K tweeter has around 8 decibels of higher sensitivity, plus a lot lower distortion and lower power compression. All of the drivers are housed in this exceptional ebony Amara cabinet, angled in a way where they all point at the sweet spot 3 meters from the speakers. The bass drivers are also acoustically separated from the mid-range and tweeter to avoid affecting them. Another very important aspect of Core and DALI speakers in general is that they are insanely easy to drive. Core is listed as being a 4 ohm speaker, and for many high-end models, that number is just, an average, with the real impedance varying wildly for different frequencies and sometimes even dipping as low as 1 ohm. This makes controlling the speaker very challenging for the amplifier, and is why some high-end speakers seem super picky about the amplifiers. Core never dips below 3.2 ohm. Of course, you'll benefit greatly from picking an amplifier with high resolution, sound staging and power, but there will be almost no cases of an amp just not working with the speaker at all. All in all, this is the best speaker that I've ever heard, and quite likely you will have the same experience. If you have the budget and you have the space. Even though most of us mortals won't have the budget to go for super high-end models like Core, we can still benefit from DALI taking the time and effort to create them. How? Trickle-down technology, which, unlike trickle-down economics, actually works. The concept is that the innovations and new technologies of Core can be adapted and used in much more budget-friendly ways, so that other speakers or lineups in other price ranges can benefit from them. DALI has chosen to make this connection to Core pretty clear in the naming of their more recent high-end speaker series. Epikore. You get 4 different models: Epikore 3, 7, 9 and 11. Available in 3 different finishes: high gloss maroon, high gloss walnut and high gloss black. Let's begin with the smallest model and work our way up. In this small speaker, around 1/10 of the price of Core, you get the same Evo-K hybrid tweeter module as in Core, giving these speakers an insanely good soundstage and level of detail for its price point. The 7-inch woofer/mid-range also uses both SMC Gen 2 for parts of the magnet assembly and the clarity cone pattern that eliminates resonance from the membrane. For smaller listening spaces, this compact model gives you a detailed and airy sound reproduction, maybe a little bit more forward-leaning than some of the bigger models, but still, it's a DALI speaker, there's also lots of bass. Epikore 7 is basically an Epikore 3 with more of all the fun stuff. You get a second 7-inch woofer with SMC Gen 2 and clarity cone, as well as a bigger cabinet that goes all the way down to the floor. And of course, still the same Evo-K hybrid tweeter as you find in Core. To me, Epikore 7 sounds a little bit more relaxed and laid back than Epikore 3, which makes sense given the extra woofer and the extra internal volume. It can also reach higher volumes and deeper lows, while, importantly, keeping the details and soundstage intact. Overall, not that many exciting differences, just more and better. More better. Next in line is Epikore 9, which carries the look of previous flagship models like the Euphonia MS5 and Epicon 8. A minor difference this time is that the mid-range was placed on top of the hybrid tweeter on the older models and is now placed under the tweeter module, with one of the woofers being moved up to the top instead. Compared to Epikore 7, you get two larger 8-inch woofers and this time a dedicated 7-inch clarity cone mid-range with a separate internal enclosure. And of course the Evo K hybrid tweeter module, same as in Core. For me, the Epikore 9 is the point in the lineup where the sound makes a huge leap. The addition of a dedicated mid-range driver creates a level of detail and dynamic performance in the mids that is starting to remind me a lot more of the sound of Core. It also reaches even deeper and manages to make vocals and instruments sound much bigger than any of the smaller models can do. This is also the point where the speakers start to get a little bit more picky of the room they're in. In this smaller listening space, the Epikore 9 kind of lost a little bit of the control of the mid-range in some songs, so definitely give them a large enough space to breathe and give them some room from the wall as well. Right, now on to the model that shares the most with the big dog, Epikore 11. It's almost as tall as Core, but still a fair bit slimmer, housing a whopping 4 8-inch woofers. You also, just as Epikore 9, get a 7-inch dedicated mid-range with a clarity cone and a separate internal enclosure, and of course, the Evo K hybrid tweeter module from Core. Remember how Core's bass drivers were tuned slightly differently to combat floor reflections? Well, Epikore 11 tackles the same problem in a slightly different way, inspired by the way line source speakers like Megaline cancels out floor reflections. By pushing the upper pair of woofers just slightly back into the cabinet, DALI has created a short time delay between this pair and the bottom pair that actually cancels out a lot of the reflections from the floor that would normally cause imbalances and a dip at 200 to 300 Hz. DALI calls this technology floor reflection control, and the result is that vocals and mid-range instruments sound way bigger, more full-bodied and powerful. More better! Epikore 11 gives you a huge, warm and musical sound with a very similar sound signature to that of Core. Perhaps it's not as refined in the mid-range and bass, but I would go as far as to say it's actually a little bit more fat and fun sounding than Core. So more fun factor, not as refined. And I mean, at just around half the price of Core, you can get really close to the best of the best without having to sell both kidneys, maybe just one. So that was Core and Epikore, the current ultra high-end and high-end offerings from DALI. I guess the summary would be good luck finding something better. If you've made it this far in the video, surely you can also make it all the way down to your closest Hi-Fi Club store to have a proper listen to any of these speakers. I think that's all from me. Please leave a comment if anything is unclear, and I'll see you next time.